Hello and welcome to Go Ballistic. Congratulations to St Mirren. They've shocked Celtic and won the Premier Sports Cup. To react to that amazing day at Hampden, we've got David Friel and Kris Boyd. I mean, before we touch on the fallout from the Celtic aspect, Stephen Robinson, what a job. And they were literally dancing on the streets of Paisley last night.
Listen, before yesterday.
What a night it was, by the way. What a night, I was there.
What time did you get in?
4 o'clock this morning. My Paisley Panda outfit. What a night, what a night.
See, the thing is, right, as I said, he'd done an amazing job before yesterday. It just puts a tin lid on it. He's been an outstanding St Mirren manager. People will say he's the best ever St Mirren manager. A brilliant triumph, and I think we also need to say that it was thoroughly deserved, thoroughly merited. I thought towards the end it was more likely for St Mirren to score a fourth than Celtic to get a second back. They deserved to win the cup. This was no smash and grab. This was a victory for tactics, for team spirit, togetherness, ability, all of that. Thoroughly deserved win for St Mirren.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought, obviously, the goal early doors just settled St Mirren getting into a cup final. You'd expected Celtic to come out of the traps flying, but as soon as you got that goal, you thought everything just calmed down. And then, to be honest, David, I don't know what you thought, but I thought Celtic actually came back in the game after that for a period of time, for about 20-odd minutes, until Iheanacho had to go off. I thought he was the difference between Celtic getting up the pitch, holding it in, linking the play. They scored a lovely goal to get back level. I thought Hatate's finish was outstanding. But after Iheanacho went off, it just all fell apart for me. Again, it shows you how far off it Celtic are in that forward area. That, no disrespect to Johnny Kenny, but that's your replacement. From where Celtic were a few months ago to where they're at right now is night and day. But at the same time, and I know we've got on to Celtic, I think we've got to give St Mirren enormous credit, because it'd been quite easy once Celtic got back. The stadium full of Celtic fans, getting behind the team, rallying the team, and you'd expect them to kick on from there. But St Mirren were able to knuckle down. They got to half time, which I thought was key for them. And the second half, I just thought it was just an outstanding performance from Stephen Robinson and his team. And the goals that they scored as well, really, really good. Well worked goals from their point of view. Celtic I'll look at the way that they conceded them, but from a younger, he's a handful.
But what did you think, in terms of the strikers, what did you think of the two of them together, in Lundalo and Ayunga? Because I felt the way Celtic set up, those two were key to exploiting that. I mean, Jim Goodwin on the TV, who faces Celtic next, actually spoke about the gaps and how open Celtic were at times. But when you've got two rampaging strikers who can hold the ball in, who can get down the channels, I thought that was key for St Mirren.
Well, it was, but you could also point to say it was disrespectful from Celtic to look at them and say, listen, we'll go 1v1 against strikers that are causing problems. The pace they've got, the physicality they've got, and that's exactly the way the game panned out. When you look at, I'll be interested to see what Jim does on Wednesday night going up against it, because I don't imagine Wilfried Nancy is going to change. So I think when you look at it now, Celtic struggled to deal with those front two. Don't get me wrong, to allow that to function, the ones behind for St Mirren were key as well. But for Celtic, more or less, to just go 2v2 at the back against them, I thought, what are you doing? It's a lack of disrespect to St Mirren. I get the fact that Celtic would say they would have overloads elsewhere on the pitch, but to be honest, they don't really do anything with the ball anymore, Celtic. They just pass for the sake of passing. They don't really create that many opportunities. And I know people will point to the fact that the players have lost, but David, there was still 8 of that team that played yesterday won the championship, won the league championship last year for Celtic. Tanecki came in. I wasn't sure of him at the start. I get criticised for saying, what is it he actually does? There was a period of time when everybody was saying, I think his debut at Kilmarnock, everybody thought, oh, this is a real find we've got here. Every passing game, you just felt, whoa, what's going on here? There was 0 goals, 0 creativity. Iheanacho as a Premier League winner, you look at what he has done. Obviously, him going off was key. And Kieran Tierney's came back into that team as well, who, I've got to say, they just all look totally dead in their feet. There's no confidence. There's nothing there. Whenever there is a hiccup or something goes against them, it's not like Celtic of old. They just sink. And it's got to be a worry. It has to be a worry. But, for Celtic, when you look at it, their big players need to stand up. And I don't mean Callum McGregor every week. You know, you're looking at Arne Engels. I mean, there's a boy who cost a lot of money, but he needs to step up. Rio Hatate scores a lovely goal, and he's a very good player. But it's as if there's a lot of the Celtic players right now deciding when they're going to play and when they're not going to play. You go back to under Martin O'Neill, there's a few of them saying, oh, by the way, there's a good chance here he's getting back to his best. He just flicked the switch back off. I mean, the last 3 games, they've been miles off it, absolutely miles off it. And I've got to say, I do feel a little bit sorry for the manager. I do, because there is no doubt that this squad is as weak as it's ever been. He's came into it when, even under Martin, you felt as if they were winning games, and we all say that's what it's about in Glasgow. But I think when you look at Rangers and Celtic, especially Celtic in recent times, they're used to dominating games. They're used to finishing teams off. That wasn't the case. Quite a lot of the time, even with Celtic, they were hanging on as well. So even under Martin, the signs that what we're seeing now were still there. But as I said, maybe because of last week against Hearts, difficult game. Roma was always going to be difficult. Cup final, you've lost that. You've got to now look to Wednesday night, David, and say, I mean, it's absolutely huge for Celtic now.
You mentioned obviously the players in the Celtic team in terms of 8 the side have won championships. I mean, we had a look before. I think there was 75 major honours in the Celtic starting 11, and that's before you add in Ian Atcho and everything. And then James Forrest comes on as well. And I totally agree with you. You know, you hear people say, "Oh, they're this and that." The Celtic players, right? They've clearly let themselves down. The question I would ask is, would Martin O'Neill have lost those 3 games? Has Wilfried Nancy come in to a weakened squad, a squad that has been weakened by the transfer window and also by injuries, and has he made a grave mistake by trying to basically shoehorn players into for me, a crazy formation? It just doesn't work. And I'm never a fan of a manager coming in and saying, this is my preordained system formation, I don't care what players I've got, this is how we're going to play. I just don't think it works. And you can take a look at Celtic.
Especially mid-season.
Sorry?
Especially mid-season when you don't have a lot of time.
Especially mid-season. You don't have coaching time. As I said, you've got a squad ravaged by injury. You've got a weak squad anyway. You don't have any coaching time. You've got some of the biggest games of the season. You're coming in and just making all these changes. I agree, the players shouldn't escape any blame for this. The players have badly let themselves down in the last week. But I just think Wilfried Nancy has to help himself. And I don't know about you, I just think he's made a grave error by trying to change too much too quickly. And it's clear the players don't look comfortable.
No, they definitely don't. But as I said, Martin was winning games, and you know, I know that clouds everybody's judgment, because you'll just look and say, "Oh, we're winning games; it doesn't really matter." But the performances, even within that, I don't think it would have been a foregone conclusion that Martin O'Neill would have beaten Hearts, definitely wouldn't have beaten Roma. And the cup final, you always kind of felt that St Mirren were arguably the trickiest team that Celtic could have faced in the cup final. You know, Rangers and Celtic out there taking care of itself. Aberdeen, they would win revenge for the Scottish Cup final. Motherwell, you know, they would have played a style that might have suited Celtic to an extent, but you just felt as if with St Mirren, with the way that they go about their business, you know, that they're quite a physical team. They're prepared to sacrifice the ball. They'll sit in a shape, but there's one thing about them: they will hit you in the counter-attack and they will cause you problems. And we've seen that in the second half. That's exactly what happened. But you kind of got the feeling that yesterday was a banana skin for Celtic anyway, going into the game. Forget the last 2 performances.
My big thing as well is that if you take it domestically, right, Roma are just a better team than Celtic, right? I think Roma would have beaten Celtic under Martin O'Neill anyway. If you take domestically, do you think Derek McInnes and Stephen Robinson and Jim Goodwin coming up would have been or will be happy if Celtic play this new formation?
Oh, they'll be delighted.
Exactly, and that's my point. It comes back to help yourself. Wilfried Nancy has to help himself. It's crazy. I don't care what anybody says. To make those changes is crazy. You're playing into the hands of your opponents. And Derek McInnes looked at how to exploit it. Stephen Robinson's done it. And Jim Goodwin sitting there yesterday watching the game will probably think, well, you've got Zach Sapsford, Amar Fata, Max Waters up front. On you go.
It's almost...
Tell you what it does show you. It might just tell everybody that we've still got decent coaches in Scotland.
Oh, absolutely. What I was going to say is we'll touch on a bit of Rangers against Hibs, but Danny Rohl played a lot of 3 at the back at Sheffield Wednesday. He's used it sparingly since coming into Rangers, and he probably has wanted to do it, but that we're talking about mid-season. He has held back. So we said Wilfried Nancy was naive. Is he now actually... Is this arrogance now?
I don't know. I've heard that a lot. to me, I don't know. I just don't think he's done his homework. And I'm really kind of confused because you talked about Tenetke. Tenetke has been struggling at left wing. He is not a right wing back. Will never be a right wing back. He's not got a defensive bone in his body. Yang, exactly the same. He had Luke McCowan on against Hearts and yesterday as a left wing back. Luke McCowan is a good central midfield player. He can play off the right as he did Martin O'Neill up one. He's not a left wing back. To leave Tony Ralston and Austin Trusty at times 2v2, as Boydy said, Liam Scales was playing like Ryan Giggs in the first half. You have guys who clearly don't know where to be. I mean, Dyson Maeda against St Mirren.
That's been a little bit disrespectful to Ryan Giggs, friend.
Right, well, but
the same
my point is, Dyson Maeda is better on the last line, either as a left winger or a central striker. He was asking him to play in behind Iheanacho. I mean, listen, again, with all due respect, his first touch and everything, that's not his game. His game is pace. You saw him when he ripped away from Marcus Fraser, got a booking. Why would you not play him on the last line? I couldn't understand it. Is it arrogance? I don't know. I just don't think he's done his homework. And I also think what he's not helped himself with, obviously the results have been horrendous, post-match, I couldn't really understand Wilfried Nancy's stance where he was saying, I saw some good things. You're the Celtic manager and you've just lost to St Mirren. And there was also a comment about, we just haven't put it together for two halves yet. Again, you're the Celtic manager against St Mirren. It's not acceptable. You've lost the final. You have better players. You have a much higher budget. And to me, he was tactically outsmarted, just like he's been in all three games. And I think it leads to huge question marks over his future. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous after 10 days in the job, but I look at him going,
you think the Celtic, anyone in that Celtic board will be sitting and think to themselves, we need to sack this man?
I'm not saying they're going to be saying we need to sack him, but I think they'll have real concerns, because I think you have to have real concerns after what you've seen. It almost feels to me like it's at the intervention stage where people need to say to him, look, you need to get back to basics. These players...
But who does that?
Games. I don't know. If it's Paul Tisdale, it was Paul Tisdale. He's
but the first thing he's done since he arrived.
Yeah, but he's by all accounts very instrumental in coming in. He's got close links with Kwame Ampadu, the number 2. I think somebody has to say to Wilfried Nancy, look, we get it. Your long-term vision is this, and this is how you want Celtic to play. You don't have the players. There's too many injuries. There's too many games. There's not enough coaching time. You need to get back to basics. These guys, as we spoke about...
Yeah, but at the same time though, David, if that's
games,
what I'm saying, then this is the way he's going to coach. Now, if I've been in a dressing room where managers will come in and this is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm going, now if he changes, it's a sign of weakness for him. And the players...
Is it a sign of weakness?
Yeah.
The players, is it not just daft to keep doing what you're doing when it's not getting results?
The players will look at it and say, you've just hung us out to dry with the last 3 games, a cup final, a game against the league leaders, and a game against Roma. You've hung us out to dry. And they should be doing a lot better. But you can quite clearly see we can't play in this formation, and you're asking us to go and do it in 3 of the biggest games of the season so far, and then you're going to revert to it. I agree. I said this last week. For me personally, I thought Thursday night was the perfect opportunity for him to go back to a back 4 or be more solid and ask questions, because then that bottom time to say, well, I can do it, whereas he just said, well, I'm going full-blown attack again. Seriously, like, what are you thinking about?
That's what I'm saying. And I think if you spoke to every single member of that Celtic squad, if you spoke to them and said, would you rather play 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 or that, or play this new system that you're trying to, as I said, jam in and shoehorn in, every single one of them, I guarantee you would say, we need to go back to a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. I get that the manager calls the shots, but I don't think this is some sort of mutiny by the Celtic players saying, we don't fancy him, we're just not going to try a leg. I think if you look at this Celtic squad, there's good types in there, there's guys that are winners, there's good professionals, and I think they can see, by a country mile, as anyone can, this is not working in the way he's trying to do it. And he has to, for the good of his job, to me, he has to change on Wednesday night. He has to go back to what Celtic have been doing, and then maybe come the turn of the year, try and bleed this back into a 3-4-3.
The thing is, the formations always become a talking point when you lose games of football. Doesn't matter what you're playing when you're winning, and that's where I'm going back to Martin was winning games of football. It probably wasn't convincing the way that Celtic wanted it. We all knew that Martin wasn't going to get the job long term, so they wanted to bring someone in. I don't think that Celtic can rip it up straight away inside 3 games, considering The 3 games they've had, yes, you've lost a cup final, which Celtic haven't done, or it doesn't happen very often. But that's back to back now. So you know, you know, at Hampden. So you look at, there's things that you wouldn't go near, there's things you wouldn't touch, and I'm afraid to say, if I'm Wilfried Nancy looking at it, I don't know if I'd have took the Celtic job when I think I would have stood for him and said, January will come. If you don't want me, that's fine. I'll get something elsewhere, because his stock was high. I mean, right now, you said it earlier, maybe he's not done the homework that we all thought he would have done. Because when you look at this team now, and I know we've touched on it, that they're a team that has won things, but let's be realistic. They're an aging team. There's a few players that are coming to an end now. There's a few players that are underperforming. Martin was able to get a tune out of them for that little block there. But I can see this continuing for Celtic for a at least till January. And that's what I'm saying. If I'm going to take it, I'll take it in January, or I'll take it in the summer. And if it's up to Celtic, if they want to wait.
I wonder if he's the right manager for Celtic at the wrong time, if that makes sense, because I think his philosophy, his style, if you actually look at what Celtic look for, everybody can talk about his experience and credentials, but in terms of his attacking style, it probably ticks a lot of boxes for Celtic. Yeah. But the timing, and I would imagine you spoke about what the Celtic board be thinking. I bet if they could have their time again, they would not have appointed him at the moment they did appoint him, because that was a risk.
They'd never get to the bottom of the line to get it over the line anyway.
Well, we don't know, right? But my point would be, and Martin O'Neill's come out on Monday morning saying that if he would have stayed on if he'd asked, I think it was, in hindsight, it was a mistake to put him in when he did, and maybe they could have just held on to January, as you said, and then there's maybe a bit more time to get players in, take a bit more coaching time. The schedule does kind of die down ever so slightly. I think in hindsight, and again, who takes the blame? I think you look back at Paul Tisdale's role in all this. He would have known exactly what system, what formation, how Wilfried Nancy liked to work, and he decided, along with the board, that this was the optimum time. He's got his visa, he's got his work permit, let's put him in for the Hearts game, let's put him in charge of arguably the biggest week of the season so far, and it's absolutely...
You think they were being arrogant, thinking it doesn't matter who it is, they're going to come in, we're just going to win this game of football, and all of a sudden it's like we're ready to go?
I don't know, but I would imagine though, if I think anybody would be taken aback by his approach, because I can't believe he came in and just ripped up what Celtic had been doing on Martin O'Neill. I mean, I genuinely can't, and I don't think Derek McInnes could believe it. I don't think Stephen Robinson could believe it. And if he does the same,
at the same time, as I keep saying, Celtic were winning games, but it wasn't convincing under Martin either. So he's maybe thought, I can come in, put my own stamp on it, and by the way, it's backfired. It has backfired. But I think anybody coming in would have looked at that and said, right, I need to change this because I need Celtic to be dominating games of football.
And as I said, to come back to the car, is it arrogance? I don't know Wilfried Nancy. I've yet to meet him. I don't know if he's arrogant or not. But looking from the outside, I think he's been very naive. And I think he needs someone, as I said, to step in and say, look, you are, this can't go on like this. Whether it's Callum McGregor, I don't like the whole dressing room stuff where players have to go and maybe go above what's happened, but I don't know. I just see this going one way, as Boydy said. I don't see as things stand if Celtic line up the way they have been lining up against Dundee United at Tannadice. I don't see Celtic winning that game.
I mean, with Martin O'Neill saying this morning that he would have stayed on if they'd asked, I wonder what Celtic fans are thinking this morning, and again what the Celtic board are thinking, because if they never even asked the question. And as well, because of what happened with Rangers and Russell Martin, and I'll highlight a quick quote from Wilfried Nancy yesterday. As soon as there is something that's a bit difficult, we have too much doubt. It sounds a lot like what Russell Martin was saying about the Rangers team at that time. I mean...
Yeah, but Ryan, seeing football, it comes down to results. Do you think Martin O'Neill would have been on the radio this morning if Celtic had won 3 games in a row and lifted a cup? Do you think Martin would have been on the radio saying, oh, by the way, I would have stayed on? Like,
probably not. He probably wouldn't have
been on the radio, but he definitely wouldn't have been. So it's all about the way people want to look at it. Because Wilfried Nancy came in, lost his 3 games, he's under pressure. Martin's still speaking about it as well. Martin done well in his time there. Listen, he probably got that feel back that I could carry on as a Celtic manager. If you'd have said to him, and you only need to listen to Martin when he was speaking about it. He knew it was on a week-to-week basis. He knew he got longer than what he was expecting to get. Maybe he let it, he got carried away a little bit because of he was there for longer than what he expected, and then he got the feel of, I'm back in the... He was never, ever going to be the long-term Celtic manager. And I'll say it again, even though Celtic were winning games of football, they were nowhere near the levels that they were. And I'll go back to it once again. Because Celtic have lost 3 games, Martin's come out this morning and everybody, get Martin back, it's that. Celtic have got to look long-term. Listen, they've had a major bump in the road this week, major bump in the road. It'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. Do they continue with this, or do they then go back and say, right, we've made a mistake here? But for Martin to be considered as a long-term Celtic manager, that was never going to happen.
They clearly think Wilfried Nancy is a better bet long-term. I think the question probably is how much short-term damage is acceptable, if that makes sense, because there's already been short-term damage. They've lost their Hearts. They're now up against the Europa League and they've lost a cup final. If this continues, and I know people, as I said myself, it's ridiculous to even think about it, but it wasn't so long ago Erik ten Hag got sacked after 3 games at Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah. I think what...
So, it has happened, and sometimes you need to hold your hands up and say, a mistake. I'll be honest with you, I always want every manager to get time because I think there is too much a knee-jerk reaction in world football now. But I have real concerns over where Wilfried Nancy is.
But David, this is where I was with Martin at the time. It was never going to be a long-term Celtic manager. But my thought was he could easily have been around the place for, like right now, Martin O'Neill and Paul Tisdale stepping in saying, Wilfried, you need to do this, you need to do that. But at the same time, a lot of younger managers would probably fear someone above them actually helping them. But I think Martin has got the club at heart. He would never ever do the manager in it by case of, I'm going to help you to get off to a start. And that was the way for me I thought Celtic should have went about it. Even if they had Martin in the building for a week or so, just to help that presence around, then move him on from there. That's where I think Celtic have let themselves down. Because there is no doubt you cannot buy experience in football. And that's what Martin had. But I think even if you go and speak to Martin O'Neill, and I don't know, I never heard the radio this morning, I don't think he's going to come out and be over-critical of the players. But deep down, he would have known that even with the way he's managing, the way he was managing to get results was as good as his first time at Celtic, because this is a group that are on the decline. They're on the decline. There's no doubt about it. So his achievements in getting those results, because the performances, as I said, there was decent ones in there. Falkirk, Kilmarnock, Feyenoord away from home. But other than that, I mean, they were hanging on at Easter Road. They were hanging on against Dundee at home. I can't remember the other one. So there was games in there where you're like, wow. I bet you Martin's sitting there thinking, I hope this is my last game here. I want out here. You look at Rangers as well. I mean, Rangers had 10 men and battered them in the second half of that semi-final. The alarm bells would have been ringing in Martin's head as well. So he's probably delighted that he's got out with the success that he had in that short period of time. But for me, if I was a Celtic hierarchy, I would have looked to have kept him around the place for a little period of time just to help Wilfried. He knows, and by the way, he would have done it because he will know how big or how much pressure a new manager coming in would have been under. And he could have easily been that sounding board for them, easily.
I also think another person who could be a sounding board who's still at the club is Sean Maloney, because by all accounts, Sean was very good when he was on the coaching.
You saw in the stands yesterday.
Pitch. I think Sean he knows the players inside out. Said it all along. I think everybody talks about Brendan Rodgers. We'll speak briefly about his next move in a second as well. But John Kennedy was a huge loss for Celtic, a huge loss. He wasn't just a number 2, he was the guy that ran things behind the scenes. Players really, really respected him, a very good coach. Sean kind of came in and did that role for 6 or 7 weeks under Martin O'Neill. And again, the players really took to him. I think to lose guys of that standard and that standing has been really difficult for the Celtic squad. And it's now just all new faces. These guys are trying to get to grips with Scottish football, trying to get to grips with players, trying to get to the opposition. But I'll come back to my point. Make it easier for yourself. Don't change too much too soon. As for Brendan, off to Saudi Arabia.
Seen that.
You going as a striker coach?
With James Bisgrove.
Yeah.
Same club,
yeah. Al Qadsia.
To be fair, I think it was rumoured in the summer that was on the cards, wasn't it? Didn't materialise. I've got to be honest. I don't really like it. I think Brendan Rodgers is wasted. I mean, there's no doubt. You know, listen, it came to the end at Celtic and it didn't end well, but to go to Saudi, no disrespect to there, I think he's wasted because I mean he's shown that he's a very good coach. There's one thing, his bank balance will know. You know, I'll get a huge increase, that's for sure. But I just think at this age, Brendan Rodgers should be managing at a very good level. But I suppose he decided to go that way. Is John Kennedy going with him as well?
I don't. It's not been declared yet. Right. I don't know.
See what happens there.
But I agree with you. I think he could still be a Premier League manager. Yeah. I always thought Brendan Rodgers would end up in the league at some point as well. Yeah. But I suppose that's the way football's going. You see more and more coaches, more and more.
To be fair, if he'd hung on another couple of weeks, he might have been the new Celtic manager. So I thought something between him and Lenny.
A wee short race. So again, we'll congratulate St Mirren again.
Brilliant.
And I'll give a shout out to my mate Daniel and his new wife Kirsty. They got married yesterday.
Brilliant. St Mirren fans?
So St Mirren fan. They were meant to be getting married next year, but they got a cancellation the day before the semi-final, and they went, right, well, we'll take it anyway, known of the date. So they actually got a message from Stephen Robinson and a couple of the players as well. So a fantastic weekend for them.
Did Robert Grieve make any work? Is he still celebrating? What's he doing?
The Grieve?
Grieve, Lecky, did they make it any work? You know, the huge
Robert's away seeing the Scotland manager this morning.
Oh, right, okay. And Mr. Lecky?
Mr. Lecky, I've been in communication with him this morning. No, he's all fresh as a daisy.
Yeah,
we're going for round 2 today.
Okay.
So, moving on to matters at the other side of Glasgow. Rangers in action against Hibs tonight. Danny Rohl's still juggling injuries. We spoke about the fact that he's probably actually now ended up having to go almost with only 3 centre halves, so he can't really play that back three. Hibs against Rangers always throws up sort of surprise games and quite often quite feisty matches as well. Yeah, it can be, but I don't know about you. I just think Hibs have let themselves down a wee bit against Rangers this season. You know, I think Hibs as a team have got so much. They've got some really good players. Love Josh Mulligan. I think Josh Mulligan is destined for big things. Really, really good player. Signing of the season so far?
Rangers should have signed him in the summer. I think they would have under Barry Ferguson. They should have 100% signed him. We've got Martin Boyle, Kieran Bowie, you know, other guys that can go and really, really hurt teams. But I don't think they turned up at Ibrox in the Cup. They certainly didn't turn up at Easter Road when Rangers won 1-0. I think Rangers, this is a game Rangers should be looking to win.
Listen, Rangers are at home. They need to win every game. I mean, Thursday night was as bad as I've ever seen. The defending was absolutely shocking. I mean, I've never seen it. I mean, what is he doing? I mean, he's actually facing the other way. I mean, it's not even. You could say it's schoolboy stuff. It's not. It's worse than that. I mean, it was, especially for somebody.
If you were down watching the under-8s, you would have a go if the defenders caught that out of position.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's just lazy defending. Listen, there's doubts over Bojan Miovski as well, so that would be a big blow if he misses the game. I mean, who comes in there? If it's Danilo or Chimete, I think I would have to go with Danilo at least. With Moore and Gassama, if they're the ones that play, then at least they could be a little bit of a link up there with them. But I tell you, one man that does need to start is Dujon Sterling. I mean, they'll be absolutely delighted that he's coming back. I think it'll allow them to play that 3 at the back, as you spoke about there. I would imagine he'll tuck in that right-hand side of that, because Rangers, I mean, you look at even last week against Kilmarnock, the opportunities that Kilmarnock had, the defending at times for Rangers, oh my days. And as you say, David, Hibs have got players that can exploit that. You know, they've got pace in Martin Boyle. They've got pace. So they've got the strength of McGrath, Bowie, and they've got the creativity of McGrath just behind them. So if Rangers are not on their game tonight, you kind of feel as if it could be another one where we're speaking about Rangers in crisis mode again as well, because you listen to Danny Rohl the last few games, Dundee United, there was signs of improvement. Falkirk, there was signs of improvement. Even in Europe during the week, there was things I liked about this game. Didn't win any of them. I mean, I don't know what it is, but there's something not sitting right with me either. I get it. It's a squad that needs ripped up again. The recruitment has been absolutely terrible, but I'm not convinced yet either. I think there's a lot of work to do. You know, at Ibrox, and again, you look at the fixtures that Rangers have got coming up. Tonight, obviously, go to Hibs, Hearts at the weekend, at Motherwell, St Mirren, Celtic, and then Aberdeen.
Aberdeen back to back.
It is a huge period of time for Danny Rohl. And I know that Rangers fans would have been absolutely buzzing yesterday with Celtic losing the cup, but they need to get their own house in order. Still behind in the league. You feel as if this would have been a season had you have got yourself in a position to go and strike. Then Rangers would have been able to capitalise on it, but the recruitment has been absolutely woeful. Set them back. Yeah, they might go and spend money again in January. It's the exact same with Celtic though, but it could be too late, because how often do they say, "Oh, we'll get players in January, they'll sign players, we'll do this, we'll do that." But very rarely are they in the 1st of January or the 2nd of January. It's usually at the middle to the end. So you could be looking weeks and weeks. There's still a lot of games to be played between them. Hearts, by the way, if Hearts can go and beat Rangers next week, honestly, what an opportunity they've got to win in the league.
I'd agree. Yeah. If you just look at the two, where Celtic are at, where Rangers are at, Hearts are back. They've had that blip, but they're churning out results again. And if you go on to the Hearts game the other night, they just Derek McKinnon said, get in, get the job done, get out with the points. So that was it. The only thing I would say is, it was a really, really dodgy penalty decision, I thought.
His hand is tucked into his body. I mean, it's incredible, absolutely incredible for people.
You're not claiming for that if you hit that shot.
I mean, even I listened to the Death Watch this morning on Sky. I'm actually going to go and have a word with Dermot as well. The rules didn't, or the laws didn't change. I haven't a clue what he's talking about. We need to get to the bottom of this. It's never been a penalty in its life.
Would you not claim for if you hit that shot? For it?
Well, that's just absolutely stupid what both of you have said. would I have claimed it if I'd have hit the shot? If I go round a goalkeeper, it's going in the back of the net.
That's a good point. Fair enough.
That is a good point.
That's the perfect comeback.
Correct. That's what I think. Is that Aberdeen in the top 6? Are they in the top 6? Are they already out? But they're 3 points behind Hibs now as well. So you look at Aberdeen, and it's been a really, really slow start, but it's just win after win after win. What an opportunity they've got at the weekend as well. Arguably the easiest game in the fixtures.
I think as well what will probably help Aberdeen coming out of turn of the year is they're also out of Europe now. You don't worry about Europe, but they're going to have more time to focus on domestic matters. As you said, they've got the double header against Rangers coming up at the turn of the year as well. Will they spend a bit of money in January? You would think they would. I think, to be fair to Jimmy Tulane, domestically he has turned things around.
Spend a bit of money? They don't spend enough?
Spent a fortune, but they seem to be backing them. So, it looks like Yengi will probably go in January. I still think they need a striker. I do. I know Kevin Nisbet's starting to, but I do think they need if they could get another striker, I think it would make a massive difference for them.
But even when you look at Aberdeen as well, for the right good run of fixtures, that Hearts game in there was obviously the toughest one that they've faced. But this is where Aberdeen have dropped points in the past. So to go and give themselves that opportunity of what Celtic, Dundee United and Hibs coming up now, and then a trip to Falkirk. So they've got games where it's going to be more difficult for them, but they will still fancy themselves to go and get those results. I think they play in Europe this week as well, Aberdeen, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So that's been both of them at Celtic Park on Sunday. Obviously, I've played during the week. So, but there's one thing about Aberdeen. Again, Jimmy Tulane made substitutions at half time. He brought on Shinnie and then made a few later on. But the squad, the size of the squad is incredible. I mean, it is a bloated squad. And you kind of get the feeling, though, David, it might be time just to trim it and add a little bit more quality.
I know. But then, as you talked about January, it's easier said than done, because these guys will be on decent deals up there. But quality would be key.
Just to circle back to Hearts then, and talking about January, it emerged over the weekend that Josh McPake is a target for Hearts. So 2 things. A, is that the kind of signing that could really help Hearts? And B, then, if we talk about if Hearts beat Rangers at the weekend, that's on Sunday. If Hearts beat Rangers on Sunday, are we ready to say that Hearts are favourites to win the league?
No.
Not quite yet. Not quite yet.
Not favourites, but definitely. As I said, always said they'll sustain a challenge, but I think they've given themselves every opportunity. Josh McPake, I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised. Young boy who had a lot of talent at Rangers, was tipped for big things. Obviously, I'm not saying he lost his way, I don't know the boy at all, but he obviously ended up at Stirling Albion and got his move to St Johnstone. Has been excellent in the Championship. He wouldn't be, I think he's been very good for St Johnstone. Hearts looking to win the league, he wouldn't be one that I would be saying, let's go and get Josh McPake. That's no disrespect for the boy. I just, if you look at Hearts' kind of level of signings they're going for, I don't know if it's analytics, Boydy. I mean, do you know the boy at all?
I mean, obviously, look at it, he obviously stacks up high in the numbers, but I think for me, looking at it, I mean, we speak about bloated squads. There is no doubt that Hearts squad's bloated. You would imagine a lot of the fringe players will be going out the door. Does that involve a few Scottish ones? You know, for Europe and that for next year, you've got to plan. And I think that's one thing we've said with Hearts in terms of Rangers and Celtic with the recruitment. Hearts will already be planning for January. They'll already be planning for the summer. They'll already be planning for probably even next January. That's the way that Jamestown Analytics works, and years and years and years in advance. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's obviously stacks up the numbers, but you've got to look at the Scottish boys coming in as well if they're going to Europe to compete. I would imagine the likes of, you know, I mean, I don't want to sit here and talk about wages, but in terms of figures, but his wages at St Johnstone ain't going to be high. There is no doubt that Hearts need to trim that wage bill because it is a bloated squad. So bringing him in as well, that's like away from the pitch, on the pitch. I mean, the boys done well. And we've seen this before. We've seen this before where players have probably, for a period of time been spoken about as, destined for the next or the big thing. It didn't quite work out. You said it yourself, kind of lost his way. Maybe got to Stirling Albion and thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm going to end up wasting my talent. To be fair to him, he's knuckled down, been given an opportunity. I think Craig Levein signed him at St Johnstone. Got in, even when he went to first, you're like, well, this is not really going to work. But I tell you what, the last 18 months, he's been good. And there has been players in the past. That have been totally written off. I mean, you think Stephen Dobie, Lawrence Shanklin. There's been players that you look at and think, nah, that's they're away down the leagues now. They're not going to come back. They find a way to come back, and you just never know because the boy has got talent. He's got talent, and he's at an age now where he needs to understand that and kick on.
And also, I remember when Hearts signed Harry Milne from Thistle, and a lot of people kind of raised their eyebrows thinking, that's a bit an out there one. Yeah. And look how well he's done. I mean, he's been absolutely outstanding in the Premiership and has filled the role of James Penrice, no problem. So, as I said, I'm surprised purely in the sense that you're thinking Hearts are going to kick on and really go and get, but it's their model. As Boydy said, you need Scots in it because I'd imagine some of the Scots will go as well. So, yeah, look, good luck to him.
So that'll wrap us up for this week. You'll have the set piece later on with, we don't know what state Robert Grieve and Bill Legg will be in. They might be in.
Panda 1,
by the way, it might be better than what it normally is if they're in a state.
I mean, they might be doing it from, I don't know, is it the Bank House that's quite popular with the buddies? So they might be doing it from there. I don't know. But do tune in to that on Wednesday. So later on, they'll have their reaction to a monumental day for everyone connected with St Mirren. Kris, thanks for joining us once again. David, thank you. Celtic fans, St Mirren fans, anybody with Scottish football, let us know what you've thought of the weekend and all the action in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.